Hi guys, it's Nathan from Headbangers again. Today we've got Hudson from Trog. Now, if you don't know Trog, they're a New Jersey death metal band. Their new EP is called Vomit Reborn. It's an absolute banger of an EP. I recommend anyone listens to it. You also might recognize him from one of Noel Millers' videos. He was coined the Cracker Barrel King, but he's an incredibly nice guy, insanely passionate about death metal. We got to talk about all everything that we love about death metal, everything that you love about death metal. So yeah, please check out the episode. It's gonna be a good one. We really enjoyed filming it. Now, if you're a fan of the podcast, don't forget, follow us on all platforms. You can find us on all platforms under Headbangers, or on Twitter, it's Headbangers Pod 1. But yeah, without further ado, here's the episode.
Welcome back to the Headbangers podcast, where your hosts Nathan and Brad. Here today, we're joined by Hudson from Trog. How are you doing, man? To start off with.
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Yeah, doing
good, man. Good.
So we like to start off with like a little icebreaker. What's your funniest gig story? So it could be one that you played, it could be one that you attended, but what sticks out to you the most?
So Trog has played no gigs because we actually don't have enough guys to play live. But funniest live story that I've ever been to or experienced is probably I was in some cover band in college. Like they just like one little tiny thing called Metal Fest that there was a concert for every year, and I didn't have a drum set down at school or anything, so we took like a bunch of mismatched pieces from the music building that we totally weren't supposed to take. I ended up breaking a bunch of cymbals too. It was bad. But we were playing Domination by Pantera as one of the songs. And in the middle of the breakdown, like one of the kick legs like gave out and the whole drum set just fell apart. And it was a fucking mess. But it's probably the worst one.
I'd say, to be fair, I always love those like little gigs where it's like always really small and like you just kind of clamor whatever you've got like available. Because I think like it adds a little bit of a charm to it.
Yeah, all 7 people there were disappointed when the drum set fell apart.
The thing is though, when you do like gigs like that, you're like, there's always like a thought process. Like, what if there's gonna be like a decent amount of people? You always think, oh, it's an okay venue. Like, you might have, and then you get there, it's like, oh, there's only like 7 people. So you can't. I feel like you can have a lot more fun with it. Like you're there, like, hey, you know what? Like, yeah, I can. There's only 7 people here. I was like, what were they gonna tell?
Yeah, and I think two of those people were like some of my friends who didn't even listen to metal. They were just coming out to see what was happening. So they were just standing in the back by themselves. So make that like 5 people that were participating.
Yeah, man. So I want to get into your music, obviously. You made some amazing albums. I want to like say about, so you mix like thrash, death, black metal, sometimes all in the same song. Like there's a lot going on, a lot to digest. With all these influences, something that was planned from the start of the band, or was it something that you guys formed naturally because of you got various interests and stuff like that all came together?
I think we try our hardest to stay within death metal, but we just can't help ourselves. Like you could see it in the back. I'm like a Metallica freak, and so is Dan. TJ wasn't actually even really into death metal until he joined our band, and now he's super into it. And he loves like this. TJ kind of keeps our riffs within the death metal category, where Dan will pull shit from all over the place, and I'm kind of a mix of both. And Pete is a super over the top. Like Pete is kind of like the quality control filter. He's like super into it. He's a bit older than us. He's been into it for years. And we would like bring a song to him and he'd give it the thumbs up or the thumbs down. Because we would write, the instrumental stuff, and then he would, obviously do vocals, but he wouldn't hear it until the demos were pretty much done. So it was cool to have him. But yeah, we're kind of all over the place. We try to really keep it consistent within death metal. And hopefully we make it work in a way that's not jarring. But some of those demos that didn't make the cut were definitely a little fucking all over the place. So we kind of got to whittle it down and try to make it cohesive. But naturally, yeah, we're kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've had that like where it's like you just kind of throw when you just kind of go into a room and you throw everything together and you just see what happens. Like you get some really good results sometimes, and then sometimes you look back going, it's just where is it going? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I feel like you guys have pulled everything off in like obviously the recent EP. Like, it's easily one of my favorites. I was telling you over Instagram. It's easily one of my favorites. it's been like constant rotation. I have like a set albums on a playlist of just bangers, and I put it on straight away into that. So it was just great.
Well, I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, it's crazy to me that people like listen to it recreationally, like beyond the first, like, hey, check out my band. Like people return to it. That's the coolest shit in the world to me.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I've always been a sucker. I've always been like a sucker for that death metal, so like that old school death metal sort of sound. Like 9 out of 10 times, it's like that's the easiest way for a band to be like, yeah, you know, Nathan's gonna like us because it does just something in my brain where I'm like, yep, this is I like this exactly how it is. I'm not gonna, you know, it's perfect. I'm not gonna like think, oh, I wish I would have done that. I'm like, nope, it's perfect.
Oh.
Yeah, man. I think it's like it's good to take risks as well. Like, you know, you guys threw a lot into it, and I think it came out very nicely. You know, you've definitely incorporated that 90s death metal sound, but you know, you do say ominous of your influences as well. Like, you know, like you can see some Metallica in there, you can see some black metal influence. Yeah, I think it's good to like, you know, you throw so much shit at the wall and then something will stick. And then I think that's the way that you form it. You know, it's good to come from like a background of full of different influences as opposed to like, right, we're just gonna make a death metal record. Like, you know, sometimes not playing it safe, I think, always makes a better result, and that's living proof of it in your EP.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, there was a lot of shit that didn't stick. A lot of shit that I still want to revisit and try to hammer out too. Like the summer in between. So we've all, you know, graduated college at this point, but the first EP and then working on this one, you know, that was while we were still in school. So we only had summers to really like get together and do it. And before TJ had joined the band, we wrote like this fucking 12-minute like blackened death metal long thing, and it wasn't ready to go out, but like there were some moments in there that I definitely wanted. Like there was just, we didn't really know what we were, and then we kind of just refocused and we're like, let's just do like, you know, death metal shit. But it took a while to get there.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think like you sort of need that way. You try a bunch of different things, and then you sort of go, that doesn't work, but this bit does. Let's just kind of go more that style on this one single bit. Because I've had it loads of times where we've been in practice and we've got like bits where it's like we've tried making it work because we have faith in that idea. But then you come back and you just go, if we haven't tried this hard to make it work, then it's not good. This bit works, so let's just try, you know, base all that songwriting from that sort of still like that theme carrying it over. And once you start thinking like that, I feel like then you start cooking with fire.
Yeah, and letting go. I think one thing that's really hard for me to do, and is like, you know, you have this idea and it's so precious to you, and then there's like one piece of it that is stellar, and the rest of it might be, you know, shit. But letting go of all it, like, oh, we put so much work into, you know, making those parts fit together. It's like, no, we just need to pull this one good part out and throw the rest of the shit out. But you know, I get really attached sometimes, especially if I wrote the ideas. I'm just like, oh, yeah. But it's usually it's actually always for the better. You know, sometimes you need to take a step back and, you know, realize when what you're doing is dog shit.
Yeah, I get like that sometimes where I'll grow attached to like a riff because it's like, oh yeah, you know, I was thinking about this the other day, and on paper it would be like okay for like 2 seconds, and then it's like, actually no, it doesn't translate as well as it did in my head. Or like I'll also have it where like sometimes like it'd be like, oh yeah, it needs to be like the song needs to add into it. But I'm always now coming from the perspective is like, hey, even if it's a 1 minute song, if it's a great 1 minute song, why just try to stretch out that great little bit that you've just written
For sure.
to 4 minutes? Like,
yeah, I think a lot of bands get carried away with that. You know, there's nothing. I think the first song on our first EP is like just under 2 minutes, and we just chalked it up to like, yeah, it's got a full like pop song structure in it. Well, I mean, not really, but it's 190 BPM, so it's gonna go much faster than the common like verse, you know, chorus, if you can call that a chorus. I don't know if you can, but you know, like sometimes you're just playing so fucking fast. Like hardcore punk, that song is in and out in 47 seconds, but they took you to 8 different places in 47 seconds. So, you know, sometimes it works.
Oh yeah, like bands like Ceremony on like the sort of hardcore punk route, like they've got all their album is just like maybe 48-second songs, and you're just there like after you've listened going, I need to listen to it again because it's each one's like just so good, but they're all really short songs, but it's like, oh well, you know, that's all you needed. Like,
dude, Wormrot is so sick at that, especially like Voices, and I really love their newest record too that came out this year. Like, and you know, when they actually play a 5-minute song, you know, it's super intentional and like they're not wasting your time. But like minute and a half, and it's like the most well executed, nuanced like grindcore that you could possibly imagine. It's like, how the fuck did you guys write this? There's no fat on this. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, I feel like it's a weird thing. I think when a lot of bands do like the shorter sort of songs, they get really good at like composing because it gives you like that little. It don't give you a lot of window to kind of like make up for like a kind of a shit bit. So it's like, oh well, you know what, like we'll cut that bit out. It's perfect the way it is then, and then like when they actually then go, no, I actually want to make a longer song now. It's that they've already kind of got that composing side already in their head. So they'll go, oh, right, okay, well, this bit can go into that bit. And I think doing that makes it a lot easier to write longer songs, like just writing out small ones every now and again.
Yeah, I always call that, and it's especially helpful in like metal where you're trying to go all over the place and not bore the shit out of people. But I always call that like the musical shot clock. Like in my head, if we're writing, I'm like, okay, we're really sitting on. It's like, oh, we've repeated this twice already. We got to go somewhere else, And sometimes it's good to realize when you can sit on something, but I think 9 times out of 10, it's better to, not if it's good the first time and it's good the second time, you don't need to. Sometimes only if it's good the first time, but like just that internal timer to just be like, all right, you got to do something else. You're gonna start boring the shit out of people.
You can definitely see that in your music, to be fair. Like, sometimes you do listen to a song, you're like, oh, we're still here. You know what I mean? It's like they'll be going on the same sort of riff for ages and ages, but like you can tell in the music, like you're not scared to just change it. Like 1 minute it's this, and 1 minute it's that. And I think that's so important because it just keeps you so much more engaged.
For sure. And I think so. We went to both ends of the spectrum with that, because then you want to change things up, but you still want it to sound like one cohesive thing. So like trying to find ways that we can use pieces of riffs as transitions, or like use things that we can bring back at the end for a little bit, or like trying to tie everything together without sounding redundant, I think is the biggest challenge. And I think with these 4 songs in the new EP, we did a decent job of that. But a lot of the shit that we threw out definitely did not have that, cohesiveness.
Yeah, I think that's what separates like a great EP from just a good one, because there's been like so many where I've listened and I've been like, that song didn't need to be there, like it just didn't fit. And I think like a lot of bands should like sort of learn from like how the approach you guys sort of took, where it's like, this doesn't fit, just scrap it, make something that does, because each song in that EP sort of bounces off each other really well. And I really enjoyed it because it was just like each one, it's like, oh, okay, well, this feels like it should have followed that last song, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, the synth stuff was I mean, we all wanted to do it. I'm a huge synth nerd, and so is TJ, and Dan loves an interlude. I don't know if we're ever going to go as like strictly 80s in that vibe again. But it was really fun to do that. We might, I don't fucking know, but we love interludes and we love intros and stuff like that. But that was something where it's like, are people just going to be like, what the fuck is this? And some people were, it was like fair, some people just want the meat, like they just want the meat of it and they don't want any of the extra shit. I'm kind of like in the middle on that. Sometimes I think extra shit is boring and sometimes I think it works. We tried to, get fun with the synth stuff. Like, we looked at bands like Fulci doing it, and, we got the same fucking album cover artist as Fulci on their new one. So if that tells you anything.
I mean, it's like a Worm as well. Like, they synth it up and that works really well. Like, I don't think you can ruin things with synth. If it's too much, then obviously it's too much. But like most of the time, it's always quite subtle and it just fits with the sort of vibe you're going for, to that gloomy sort of vibe,
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad some people think it works.
How did you guys meet, by the way?
I'm sorry?
How did you guys meet? Like the band? How did it form?
So Dan and I, we went to kindergarten together and have grown up since in the same town. Pete and I, the vocalist, are cousins. He's my older cousin. Wow. And then TJ, we met through a mutual friend. He grew up like 2 towns away from us. And we were kind of at a stalling point in our writing process, and we kind of always wanted to bring somebody else in who can shred on guitar. And we found TJ, and he was a great guy and could play really well. And then instantly like took interest in the music and got super into it himself. So yeah, kind of like the 3 of us kind of was just naturally in the same area. And then we brought TJ in after the first EP, and he's been such a, like we found the best guy we could have possibly found with him. So he's done so much cool shit. Like his first writing session that he came over with me and Dan, we wrote Horrific Irrational, in the whole thing in one night. No other song went that fast, but it was sick that was like the first night. He had like 2 riffs that he is like, okay, me and Dan bounced off of it, and then it was fucking done. I mean, we made like 1 or 2 minor changes later on, but like the whole song was fleshed out in fucking 3 hours. So we knew after that, I was like, yeah, this guy is awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Oh yeah. So was Pete the one that sort of got you into metal, with him being your cousin and everything like that?
Yeah, hardcore. I could not point to anybody who has done it more. I mean, so Pete's mom actually gave me my first CD ever, which was Metallica's Death Magnetic for my 9th birthday in 2008. And I fell in love with Metallica, and they were my first favorite band. They'll be my last favorite band. You know, that is what it is. But as far as and then, I slowly Avenged Sevenfold, Disturbed when I was a kid and all that stuff. Then I started to get into like Lamb of God and whatnot. And then Pete kind of like extended, the hand to just be like, come into this realm of disgusting shit. And so we both, you can see we both like collect CDs, and he's got a way bigger collection than I do. And we just trade flash drives. It's more one-sided. I get way more shit from him than he gets from me. But like those flash drives just started loading up the iPod, and just I would say probably around 2017, 2018 is when I really started to get into like the underground shit. Like I know like Horrendous's Idol was like one of the first CDs I bought that I felt like proud of, like, not a lot of people know this and I love this and this is cool. And then from then on, I just went completely under the or off the deep end, I guess. And now I'm super into it, and it's fucking amazing. I still learn about new shit from him every fucking day though. He's a freak when it comes to that stuff.
It's really interesting you say that, because it's literally my cousin that got me into it as well. But like looking at him, like you would not think that this guy got me into metal, because it's kind of like a secondary thing. Like he likes some metal, but like he was never like fully invested into like the culture of it and everything like that. But yeah, when I was like, I think about 10, he's like showed me Metallica and Disturbed and shit like that, and I was like, yeah, I like this. This is good. And then I kind of fell out for it with a bit, or I didn't like invest my time too much into it, and then like years later I started to delve more into it. But yeah, it was actually him that got me into it, so thanks to him, I suppose. And then I started to discover like all the heavier shit. It's like a train. You just keep going, and then it gets heavier and heavier, more dark.
Yeah, and you have to remind yourself of how ridiculous it gets sometimes. Like,
oh yeah,
I just sometimes like you go back and you read some Chris Barnes lyrics, and you're just like, like you're just listening to it and it's fine, and you actually like take a step back. You read like Devourment lyrics or some shit like that, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. Well, you gotta remind yourself that like, oh yeah, it is that bad, but yeah, it's fucking awesome. Yeah,
it's like when you look back, you're like, I can't believe they tried banning this shit. I can't believe Christians went so crazy about this. And you read it sometimes, go, yeah, like, if this was like the first time it was coming out, I'd probably be thinking, this is a bit too much.
Yeah.
Then you read his tweets as well. I'm like,
yeah. I can't vouch for anything Chris Barnes did after he left Cannibal Corpse, but
no.
But yeah. Well, it's like I saw a tweet from the other day when he was like talking, like kind of shitting on Gate Creeper, and he was like just saying, oh, how shit the scene's got on. It's like, have you not like listened to like the shit that's been released right recently? It's like everything's awesome. So good.
Yeah, I also don't remember Gate Creeper doing like an album of AC/DC covers either. So
yeah, like also like his new bands. I mean, I'm gonna say it's kind of trash. Like like its instrumentals like are great, but his vocals just have not aged well.
Is this 6 Feet Under? Or is this a new project? Oh, okay.
6 Feet Under.
Yeah.
I enjoy the instrumentals, but I feel like the vocals. As a vocalist, I judge vocals when I listen to them, and like I'm not that great, but sometimes I'll be like, this isn't. This was like definitely like the first take, and you're like, I can't be asked doing that. Like,
yeah, I've listened to some 6 Feet Under, like just just here and there. Some of it's on the iPod. Pete gave it to me, but like. I can't get over most of it. And I mean, you heard some of the vocal weaknesses even on like the Bleeding and like at the end of like Hammer Smash Face and stuff, but like nobody cared because just the tunes were undeniable. I think then you strip out the just the stellar musicianship and songwriting of a band like Cannibal Corpse, and then especially when it's going to be like your solo project, it's more of a laser focus on the vocals. But I mean, that last scream at Hammer Smash Face is like grating to me, and I've heard that song 6 million times, but like I don't give a shit because that song is incredible and I wouldn't change anything about it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I feel like as well from having to do that style of vocals, they're so grating. Like I can't see like being able to do it like really well past like 40, like because they take a lot, like
for sure.
to actually be able to do. Like you have to be always on form with technique. Like you have to be like almost a robot like nail it each time. And so like there'd be times where I've done like I'll do like a scream that I've done 40 times before and like fuck up my throat because I just happen to just go push it a little bit too hard or go, oh wait, no, I didn't use the right part there. And it's like, oh great. And I do it every time at band practice and it's like, oh fuck's sake.
Dude, I
So
blow
I
my
can't
voice out in the car every day. I blow my voice out. But I don't have to. I'm not a vocalist. It doesn't matter. But like every fucking day, I'm yelling along to tunes in the car, and I blow my fucking voice out. Yeah, I think there's kind of a weird relationship with vocal technique because I feel like one of the reasons I really don't vibe with. I don't want to say all because there are exceptions. Lorna Shore being one of them. A lot of deathcore I can't really just get into, and I think the vocals have a lot to do with that. I think some of these guys it's almost like vocal Olympics where like they're so hyper focused on technique and everything, and it's fucking impressive. Like it's sick, but I feel like some of that like evil attitude and whatever kind of gets lost when you're just cycling between like this is a fry scream and this is like I don't even know all the fucking names, but like you see these vocal coaches and it's like yeah you're talented, but like it doesn't mean anything. Like there's nothing. David Vincent wasn't doing anything crazy on Immortal Rights, but when that song starts and it comes in, you feel like you're about to die, and that's really fucking awesome. So I feel like, and I also feel like a lot of times some of the screams that are like lesser in technique, like maybe not good technique, not safe technique, sometimes those are the ones that are like just the most like the best ones. Like the first Slipknot record, for example, that's not a sustainable vocal style at all, but holy shit, that's so mean. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm,
Oh yeah,
definitely.
I found like the minute I stopped, because I started off trying to do vocals, wanting to do deathcore and stuff, because I thought, like that was the stuff I was listening to like all the time. I thought, oh yeah, it'd be so cool to be able to do all these different vocal styles, and like it was one of those things where I could do it, but I could do all those different vocal styles really poorly, and then it wasn't until I got into like really underground like death metal was when I actually went, I don't really need to do this. I just need to figure out the vocal style that I like the most and just do that well. And like that, since I went, oh, I'm going to strip it back, it was so much better. Like and now I can comfortably like do a practice and not think, oh, these guys going to think I'm a dick for trying this like new style out that I can't, I don't know if I can do yet. Whereas now I'm like, I can just do highs and lows, but I can do good highs and good lows, like, and that's it. It's just so much better sometimes just to go, I don't really need to do all this fancy shit.
Yeah, I
For
think
sure.
less is more sometimes.
Oh, you got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think like just less is more sometimes. Like, just because you can doesn't mean you always should.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also people miss a lot of the nuance even within if I mean devourment vocals are just fucking the whole time, and I don't care. I think there are so many interesting things that you can do rhythmically or in your enunciation, and I think a lot of people focus on like what technique are they doing, and they think that if it's not a million techniques it's not exciting. But like look at like what Dying Fetus does and how like rhythmically interesting their vocals are. And I think I was watching some video, and I think it pertains to death metal vocals as well. Somebody was responding to like Ben Shapiro talking about how rap isn't music and like doesn't have melody and whatever. And they're basically talking about like rap vocals. And I'm not a huge rap guy, but like I like some of it. But I thought he made a good point, especially with, respect to like the trap music. It's like these guys aren't using like melodies as like melodies per se, but even just the little vocal inflections, like that's all kind of like micro tonal melodics. It's all about your inflections and how you're delivering, and that's where a lot of the appeal and a lot of like that intangible element kind of comes from. And you can certainly see that and hear that in death metal as well. So like it's not as monotonous as some people think. I mean, it'll wash over if you've never heard it before. I don't think anybody's ready for Cannibal Corpse the first time they hear it, but like once you kind of get into it, I think there's a lot more nuance and a lot like there's such a difference between like a good vocalist and like fucking amazing, and it's those little intangible aspects that make that difference, in my opinion.
I feel like you've got to be a good musician, because like when you listen to death metal, like the vocals really go with the melodies and they really pick up on each melody. And I think it's because it has to, otherwise it's not going to fit. Because like anyone can sort of go, here's like 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 a generic like pop beat, and anyone that can sing can sort of sing over it. But if you go like, oh, here's like a melody that's more laid out like death metal or trap, there's only going to be a couple people that can go, okay, well, I'll do this bit here because it goes with that. You have to really read the music like for it to actually work. Otherwise, it's
Mhm.
not gonna.
Yeah, for sure. And another, death metal and stuff like that is so a lot of times time signature wise, and like it's so technical and so like switches around so much that like you have to be musically oriented to some extent to even comprehend what you're going to be putting vocals over in the first place. To know like where's the one, or if you're doing shit on the upbeats, you got to feel the downbeat while you're feeling like it's you have to have that musical. I think a lot of vocalists, while they might not play an instrument, they might not know like the specific names. Like a lot of them just like have a feel for that, and that that is that next level, and it's musical in its own way, even though it doesn't have labels.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I get like proper nerdy about guitar gear, even though I've never played guitar. It's like I just get really. I'll come into band press. He's like, "Oh, John, have you seen this pedal?" He's like, "No, no." He went, "Get it? It does this sound." And I'll be like playing it on my phone. He's like, "See how sick it sounds? It does a great tone." I feel like to do it, you've got to have that passion, especially
Absolutely.
death metal.
Yeah, nobody's in death metal for. It's really hard to find people in death metal for the wrong reasons, because it's so unpopular and it's so grating. Like you really do have to like it if you're going to be into it, and you're going to want to sink as much money as we've sunk into either buying it or making it or fucking whatever. It costs money, and you don't always make that money back until you're, big, and that's a relative term. So you really do got to love it if you're going to be in it.
Was that what you said the most
yeah.
challenging
Oh, yeah.
part of Vomit Reborn then? Was it like the putting the money into it, or was it like other sort of challenges that came along with it too?
The hardest part. I think the hardest part was the. I mean, financially, yeah. It was. We all had to. Put a decent amount of money. I was working at the time. I'm currently looking for audio engineering work in the city. A great job market right now, by the way. But I was working at the time
feel
at
that.
a plumbing company. I was making decent money, and I think we were all working. We were all like, just out of school, or we were, in school and then just out of school. So and Pete's, had a job for a while. But we definitely did have to make. I mean, it was a few. I don't know. It was probably between $5,000 and $10,000 for everything. What helped was that I have mics, and I am also trying to be an audio engineer. And so we were able to, like, we didn't have to rent studio space. We just did it in our basements. We didn't really have great gear, but we made it work. And so I think all that studio time and all that extra shit, that saved us a lot. And it also allows you more control over the whole thing when you do fucking everything. Like you can pick exactly how you want takes to be without worrying about like, oh, this is a $70 an hour thing. If we don't get it now, we just have to fucking go with it. Like for some of those drum parts, they took me forever to get right. And I was just sitting there with my laptop in my drum room, just engineering myself, and just be like, we're going to sit here until we fucking get it. But the hardest part, I would say, was throughout the writing process. Just getting these songs. I mean, we beat the shit out of each other over that. There were some disagreements between a few of us. There was sometimes we'd bring stuff that we'd been working on for a while to Pete. He'd hear it for the first time, give it the thumbs down. We'd be super bummed about it, and then you look back in retrospect, and he was right. And there were times where everybody was disagreeing with everybody, and but writing is always like that. I feel like that's the nature of it, is that everybody has their ideas and wants them represented, and everybody has the same goal. And I think that's what keeps the ship on track. It's just like, hey man, like this isn't personal. We're just all trying to make the best thing we can. And so I had plenty of ideas that were dog shit. But the fact that like the process of hammering all that dog shit out, it's tough, especially if you're tied to an idea. So that was probably the hardest part. But we were completely stalled out for like a year, but we brought TJ in, and TJ really helped as like a tiebreaker, because in writing before it was just me and Dan, so it was him versus me, and it was just like, and neither of us, we're both pretty stubborn, so neither of us really like, and there was no tiebreaker. TJ came in and he's like, no, I can't think I like this one. We like this one. It's like perfect. He kind of broke the tie on a lot of stuff, and also brought a bunch of great ideas. But yeah, that writing process was definitely difficult. But I anticipate future ones being just as difficult. It's part of it.
I think collaboration is a gift and a curse, to be honest. Like, you do produce some really good stuff, and I think like, if you've got an idea to bring to the table, it sometimes doesn't like formulate until you actually come and you work on it together. But also it comes to the thing that, you like something, they don't like something. Like, I don't do musical and a musical talent, but like I do video production, and like I do that as freelance work. So I'm often working with like loads of different people, and sometimes they'll have and I'll edit something and they'll be like, we don't like this, take this section out. I'm like, that was the best section in my head. And it's like really hard to let go. But obviously, they're my client. They're paying me to do it, so I've got no choice but to take it out. But sometimes you work with somebody else that's got like a really creative mind, and you're like, fuck yeah, we're on the same page here, and you're moving waves. But yeah, it's definitely a gift or curse. But I think most of the time, collaboration is definitely a good thing.
Absolutely. And I especially feel your pain on that when it came to like the mixing aspect of everything. Like once I went to, audio production school down in Nashville for 6 months, and I had gone right after we had finished tracking everything. So I was going to mix it all down there. And, I'd spend, 8 hours straight on a mix, go to bed at 3 a.m, have to wake up for school the next day. And I'd send it in, and then we were like, there's no bass. And it's like, oh, okay. But they were right. I still have plenty of issues with the mix. But like, a lot of times they were right almost every time. But like, yeah, you put all this time into it, and it's, to you, it's feel like the best thing ever. But sometimes your perspective is just bad. When you stare at something for 8 hours straight, your perspective just disappears. Like your objectivity disappears. So sometimes you need to take, I think that's something
take a little break.
Yeah, you got to take a break to keep yourself in check even.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I feel so sorry for like the audio engineer I worked with, because like I remember like he sent in like the pre-mix, sounded great, but everyone like bass needs turning up, drums need turning up, guitar needs turning up, and he was like, why does everyone want their bit turning up?
Oh, so you mean you want to turn the master volume up? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. It was just there like, why does that? I was fine with it. I was honestly fine. I thought it sounds great, but everyone like, no, it needs to be louder. And it's like he was there like everyone wants it to. He went the main part needs to be the vocal. He like trying to explain it, but no one like hearing it really. I was there like I was even saying in the band chat like separately like guys, ease off. Yeah, it sounds great. It's like who cares if who cares if like a snare just sounds like a little bit quieter than like blowing your fucking head off. It's meant to be equal. Like
yeah.
Like otherwise it's just gonna be just noise at the end of it. So
yeah, everybody has.
Speaking of,
oh, sorry, you got it.
I'm gonna say like because obviously you do audio engineering. Like, what are the most like common mistakes you think people make when they're first getting into audio engineering? Like you've encountered.
I would say I'm still making a lot of those mistakes. I've been doing it for almost 5 years now, but I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like, and that's a common theme amongst like even people who are ridiculous at it. Common mistakes. I think I can't speak for other people, but I can speak for ones that I've made. I think, first and foremost, as a drummer, I was making the drums too loud in the beginning. Like, it was just like, I want to hear myself. Every little thing that I did, every little fill, every detail, I wanted to be heard. And it's like, you can't hear the fucking guitars. Like, in the guitars, you need to hear them. I still have it, even songs on Vomit, I think that the guitars could be fucking louder. But yeah, I think that's one of the things, is just finding that balance and realizing that every member of the band is going to have parts that are special to them, and to try to highlight as many of them as you can. And everybody's going to have parts that were special to them that aren't heard as well, including yourself. If you're playing in the band, like, you need to, if the bass line is super fucking tasty and I did a cool drum fill, but the bass line is better than what the drum fill I did, you need to hear that. And, so that shit like that, trying to find that balance. And then I think just like technical stuff, just like techniques. I didn't know, especially with the first EP, which I think sounds good for what I had. I mixed that thing on a Bluetooth speaker sitting on my table in front of me. I didn't have anything else, and like in headphones. And I've come back around on mixing in headphones as well, but I think that sounds fine. But like, yeah, I didn't know anything about like parallel compression, and I put like the reverb directly on every track, and like it was just like a whole lot of dumb shit. And also a couple techniques that I actually taught myself then, that I went to audio production school and they did something else. And I was like, the way I came up with by myself when I didn't know what I was doing, actually, I kind of like better. I think staying organized is extremely important. File organization and everything. It's really easy to lose stuff, and it's really easy to write over stuff that you're just testing something out, and like, you reflex save by accident. If you're not backing up all your files and you're not saving individual, like, this is what I did yesterday, this is what I did the day before, you're going to just write over shit. And it's, I've had that happen to me a few times. So managing all those files. And then I think the last thing is to just don't get an idea from YouTube. YouTube has helped me a ton with all that. Like, you can get an idea, but one thing I've noticed from a lot of the YouTube tutorials is that these guys are either using sample tracks or they're using professionally recorded tracks. And, they're like, oh yeah, you don't got to get crazy with your EQ. You just need -3 dB here and you'll be set. Yes, if you're recording a fantastic instrument on a fantastic microphone, don't fuck it up. And I've fucked plenty of things up. I think I fucked the drums up on this EP so bad by over compressing the hell out of them. And that's definitely another thing that I've learned, is that don't fuck up things that are already good. Like let them breathe, let them be natural. But sometimes you do have to fuck stuff up, because if you recorded a horrible sounding drum in a horrible sounding room, you have to mangle that track in order to get it to sound right. And I think being kind of fearless, like, does this sound right to you? Does a fucking 11 dB boost at 3K, does that make it sound better to you? And if it does, then just fucking do it. It doesn't. That the guy on YouTube said I shouldn't. I don't care about that too much. The final thing is just like, does it sound all right? But also realize when you're doing too much. You don't want to. Sometimes I go back and listen to like the completely untouched rough mix, and I was like, it's got something to it. It's not better than what I've been working on for this long, but like there are elements to it that I definitely wish I kind of left in, and I definitely feel that on this EP, on the last EP, and probably will in the future. But yeah, you just got to strive for good enough, I guess.
Oh yeah, I think one of my pet peeves when people like do engineering is when they do like live drums and then they cover all of it in drum samples, because it's like, what are you doing? Like,
I fucking hate that. I hate
because
that.
it's like
I don't believe in it.
You've just had a drummer come in and do like all the drumming perfect. Like you've made him do it over and over and over and over again, and then you've been like, and drum sample. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's a mess. And I get, like, especially on pop stuff, like down in Nashville, it was all like recording like either like pop country stuff, pop records, or like Americana stuff. Not really anything that I'm interested in, but yeah, they're sample, not necessarily replacing, but they're supplementing with samples and using slate trigger and all that. And that's fine. But for me, like I refuse to use samples on my own stuff. I just don't like it. Like if it sounds like you can't hear the kick as much, I either turn it up or I let it sound that way, because I just don't want. I refuse to use it in my own stuff. I hate the way that I hate how fake everything has become. Like, not everything, obviously, but like a lot of stuff has become just so lifeless in the production. And it's like, this song would probably slap if it just had some like 90s production on it. And it's not even like the songwriting needs to change. It's just like the whole vibe disappears when everything sounds like it was in an ISO booth by itself and everything. I don't know. I just kind of hate that aspect of a lot of new stuff.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, I just think like it's great that we've got all of like these tools available like for us, like where you could, if you wanted to do music and use only a guitarist, you could do a full band from the comfort of your bedroom. And you've got all this available, and you can just you can program it, and it's cool in that aspect. The problem is a lot of people have chose to do that model, so that the amount of EPs that come that are using the same fucking drum samples, where it's like all the drums sound the exact same, and it just makes it makes it not stand out. You just listen to it and you're like, yeah, it kind of all just blurs into one in a weird way. Like, it's like if you had like an actual drummer in a room using their own kit, even if they fuck up, like that adds character to the actual song. There's like loads of songs from like the 70s and 80s. There's one in particular, I can't remember the fucking name of it, but you can literally hear the drummer drop his drumstick and like you literally scream fuck, and then the song starts.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it added a bit of character because that wasn't meant to be there, and he fucked up, but it made the song weirdly better.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's that shit that'll just never. It's irreplicable. I struggled through that one. It'll never happen again, and it's really cool. And I think there are ways you can use these techniques, like Let the Record Show, that I understand that like all the Scott Burns records and all, like they triggered the kicks. That was like a new technology, and I get that, and I think it worked well, and I think it can work really well for a lot of applications. I think it's just when you do everything and you overdo it, that's when you risk losing the life, like of a thing. Like even sometimes you sample a snare drum. Like I love Necrophagist, I love all that shit, and the first record was not even a real drummer, but like and Fulci, all programmed drums too. Like it definitely can work. Fluids is another great example. Mortician, all these fucking sick ass bands. It can work, but it's just got to be done well. The rest of the band and the rest of everything else, like it makes that decision to trigger the kick or program the drums, it makes it you understand why, because it needs to punch through and it needs to do that. But I think that's another reason why I've kind of never really vibed with a lot of like the modern deathcore stuff, is because everything sounds just so fake. And then you go and listen to like early 2000s like metalcore and deathcore and stuff, and it's fucking cool, a lot of it that I just never heard before because I'd written off the whole genre. Like the Red Chord is a band that I got introduced to after I went through a phase where I kind of wrote off a lot of core stuff. And then like I came back around on a lot of it. But like the Red Chord is a band, like Clients and what's it, Fed Through like the Teeth Machine, I think. Like those records are so fucking sick. You know, sample drums and everything, but like the attitude is there. And the
it's like
songwriting is there.
I'm a proper stan for this album, but Unanswered by Suicide Silence, still a banger.
Is that their first one?
Like, I don't think it's their first one, but I think it's definitely it's one of the earliest ones.
Gotcha, because their early stuff slaps for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the new stuff that's going back to that slaps just as hard. Like when they release like Thinking in Tongues, I heard it. I was there like, it's like good. It's like the good old days. Like
Yeah,
I was
very
like, I
reminiscent of
got
that
so
time.
excited. Oh yeah, but like that old sort of deathcore like MySpace style, it still kind of holds up now. Like you go back to it because it was its own thing. It didn't sound fake, and like it was like kind of it still has that kind of new feeling quality because deathcore's kind of like evolved into this different thing where you can't really separate it from metal as a whole. It is still in that metal box now in modern day, but back then it was truly like a mix between hardcore and death metal, and
For sure.
it still shines through now.
I mean, Suicide Silence, you hear the death metal influence all over their early stuff. Sure. And also like, grindcore, for example, is also technically a mix of, hardcore and death metal, but a different kind of hardcore and probably a different kind of death metal as well. But yeah, no, I love that stuff. And I've come around even on some like Avenged Sevenfold, for example, is a band that was like, I thought they were probably my second favorite band of Metallica, like all throughout high school. And
yeah, me too.
And I fell away from them for a little bit. But I've come back around, and some of it, like they're self-titled, I can't really like listen to. Like I would never blast that out the car windows without feeling like, ugh. But like City of Evil has some cool shit on it. Waking the Fallen, I like a lot of songs off of that record. And the record for them that brought me back around was The Stage from 2016. It's such a different vibe than the rest of their entire discography, and it's just a stellar progressive heavy metal record. Like everybody's always asking like what's a hot take, like what's a record that you love that nobody else, like that people would judge you for, and I would say that one. And I don't even think it's like the record is like a guilty pleasure. I just think it's the band name that people kind of write off. But if you go out and actually listen to that record again, like it's so different than everything they've done, and it's such a mature record, and it's written so well. I mean, there's a fucking like Neil deGrasse Tyson cameo at the very end. It's fucking awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Like,
they're very talented musicians.
Yeah, there's a nostalgia factor with that stuff as well. Like, I remember, I think it's the song's called "Hey Kids." I can't remember, but all I remember is the chorus is "Hey Kids," and it's like the drum.
Oh, that's "Welcome to the Family." Yeah,
"Welcome to the Family."
Yeah,
me and my mates used to play that in high school, like all the time, because we used to find, the drum like solo, like almost at the beginning.
Yeah.
It sounds like someone kicked the drum down the stairs. It's like, like it's just nuts. But we used to we used to laugh because of how like mental it was. But we used to really enjoy the song as well. So like I'll go back every now and again. I remember that time when I'd be sat in school, with like shit phones, being like, yeah, like laughing about it, but also being like, yeah, but this is still like this song slaps. So like it has a nostalgia effect with those bands. Like it's just so like you look back at it, you're instantly reminded about all the good times you had whilst listening to those songs.
Yeah, it's like a time capsule.
Absolutely. That was one of those songs actually that when I was in like high school, I used to think that was like the heaviest shit ever. And now I listen back and I'm like, it really wasn't, but like I enjoyed it in high school.
Yeah, like I have the same feeling. Like I look back going, I remember feeling so edgy that I listened to this song, and now like I feel like I could show the song to anyone. They'll be like, yeah, that's a good song. Like
that's how I judge it. They said fuck and they said shit. Oh my god.
It's like, oh my god. Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things. It was like you just felt like even when you listen to Korn and stuff like that when you was a kid, where you're there like, yeah, I'm an edgy teenager, and in reality, it's there like, you're not, dude. Like, like, I wanted to ask as well, like, what's sort of coming after, the EP? What's the plans for the future?
We're writing right now. We have a few things. I mean, a few things are a little uncertain. Dan's looking for jobs, some of which might be out of the state, although I think he's primarily looking within the state. I'm looking for work as well. I just got out of my, audio production program. TJ he just started a new job as well. My cousin Pete, he just had a kid. So I mean, he's been so busy with his work and with everything. So I think Pete might be out. But I'd love to, at least if we were to ever play live, I'd love to have him on stage for at least the first show. We're trying to find a bassist and possibly another vocalist. We might handle the vocals in-house, but we definitely need a bassist. I think losing Dan on bass, I mean, not that we're losing him in the band, but I think like we it might just be a live guy, it might be a guy we bring in, but I think that we need to solidify the lineup and be able to play shows, because that's important. People have been asking to see us play. You start playing shows, you start moving merch, you start moving CDs a little better as well. You gain exposure that way. So trying to build that up, but also just finding a guy that we actually connect with is the most important thing. And we're still far away from. I mean, everything is still so uncertain at the moment that I don't think we're going to be playing shows anytime soon. So we're just writing because that's what we know how to do, and that's the most productive thing we can do right now. So we got a whole lot of ideas that are coming together, and we're really excited about them. And if it comes to to us having to record another EP, just the three of us without being able to play live, that's what we'll do. I just keeping it from being stagnant. Disregarding things that are outside of our control. What is the most efficient path forward is kind of our mentality right now. So it's definitely it's far from. I mean, we still got plenty of gas in the tank. We want to take this as far as we can take it. But yeah, it might take a slightly different form going forward, but we'll see.
I look forward to hearing it, man. So we do have to ask about the Cracker Barrel story. So I want to ask, so obviously it was featured on Noel Miller. Since that happened, do you think that drove some attention to the band from that? And or were you getting a lot of DMs after that feature?
Oh.
What was the backlash from it? Now backlash is a negative word, but just what kind of reception did you get from it?
That was crazy.
Awesome story, by the way.
Thanks. Probably the craziest thing to ever happen to me. I went from, my social media just blew the fuck up after that second, that interview video dropped. I think I had something like 600 followers the day that video dropped. And then instantly, I was a private account, and then it was just 200 requests in 20 minutes to follow. I was like, what the fuck happened? And then I checked and it had come out. And then I made, then it went up to whatever it is now. And I've lost some since then, gained some, and that's fucking cool. I don't expect people to give a shit about the guy who told the poop story for 2 years after he told the poop story. I get it, but yeah, as far as driving attention to the band, 1,000%. Noel was such a cool guy to post, to plug my band in the video. I didn't ask him to do that. He just asked about it. He put the snippet in himself. I didn't ask for any of that, and he went out of his way to help us out like that. And that was just the first EP, and we had a lot of people go check that out, and that was fucking incredible. But it also gave me a lot of people to advertise the new one too as it was coming, and a lot of people who had followed me from that, I was posting throughout, while we were writing this EP and giving updates and whatnot. And there were people who were like, yeah, watching this journey is sick. And then the thing came out, I got hit up by a bunch of people congrats, it's been awesome to watch this whole thing. People who weren't metal fans that followed me then became metal fans, and we're talking about it. It was fucking wild. It was just a springboard, really. And I tried to make the most of it. I still act like a fucking asshole on social media, and I enjoy making a fool out of myself. But yeah, it was a really, really crazy, and I'm super indebted to him for plugging myself and my band like that. It was completely unnecessary.
I bet you this is the best shit I've ever taken.
I found you.
What was that you said?
Must the best shit you've ever taken.
We'll go one at a time.
Yeah, it's two, man. We've been doing this for 2 years, and we still can't queue whenever each of us are going to speak.
Yeah.
Right, Brad, you go first.
Yeah, it's probably a connection delay, to be fair. But yeah, as I say, it must have been the best shit you've ever taken.
It was one of the worst, but it turned into the most important one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I found Trog and everything like that, because I remember it was because it came out just when we were sort of getting out of lockdown in the UK, and I remember I was watching the video, and he was like, "Oh yeah," and he put the snippet on, and immediately my ears peaked up. I was like, "What's this?" So
wow.
I went on Spotify straight away and listened to the EP, and I was like, "This is sick." So I followed the band, and then obviously followed you,
Wow.
and then sat there, and I saw that you was posting about the new EP, so obviously listened to that straight away. And I sent it to Brad, and we were both like, we need to get him on. We need to get this guy on, because his band's fucking sick. Because we always like just kind of finding new stuff that gets us genuinely excited about metal again. So we always go who do we want on, and who do we like the most recently? And obviously you hit the top one of the top of the list really for me.
Wow. Well, thank you. That's crazy to hear. But yeah, I mean, that proves my point that he helped us out so much with so much shit. And I've talked to him here, and I met him once. I went to one of his shows about a year ago, and I got to meet him after the show, and he was super just as nice and just as funny as he seems. Yeah, it was the whole thing was fucking crazy. And I still, still people are just, I'm getting DMs like, oh, remember you took that shit? It's like, yeah, I remember it. I try to not like make that. I'm not like trying to, I would never shy away from it. I think it's hilarious, but I try not to like make it like to lean too hard into that and be like, yeah, I'm, the Cracker Barrel guy, and that's my whole personality now. Like I try to make it like, I do other stuff, but also not shove that other stuff in people's faces either. I don't want to be annoying. But yeah, just kind of like continue to live as I was living. And then if people saw that, something that they wanted to keep up with, then, and apparently they did. It's really cool that happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's an awesome story, to be fair, but like, the band carries itself as well, so it's definitely not defined by just one story. But have you actually been to Cracker Barrel since? Because I remember you said in your video you're like, no, I'm never not going back. So I'm just interested to see if
I haven't yet. That was 2 years ago. I'm waiting. We want to go, me and my friends who used to go all the time, but we're waiting to get everybody together to do it, I think. And I'm not in a rush to go back there and get food poisoning, but I think we're waiting to all like be together, like the original squad of like everybody. And it's hard now because everybody's all over the place, but I think we're waiting to like make a grand return at some point.
Mate, you should do like a video. It's like the return of Cracker Barrel.
That'd be crazy.
Just film the result.
Just get like the ecstasy of gold playing in the background.
I mean,
I'll make a music video.
It was out. I remember watching it, and like, you guys are one of my top like death metal bands at the moment. Like I said, like to your on Instagram on here, and it, one of those things was like I gained two things. I got to watch the video and like this is like a funny story, but then I also got to like get into a new band because it's very hard to discover stuff that like I genuinely like at the moment. So see, like obviously getting that sort of like seeing that and being like, oh my god, this guy's in a death metal band, because it's very rare, like people go like get like these viral stories and they happen to also be in a really good band. So yeah, it was, I think like it's one of those things. It's like it's good that it happened because it's like it brought so many people over to you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for saying all that. That's I still can't believe that people like, I don't know. It's weird that people we made something and people like enjoy it a lot. And I don't say that to be like, oh, like, oh, I'm so humble. It still does blow my mind when people are like, yeah, I do think this is cool. Like it means a lot. Thank you.
No worries. One thing I want to ask you, because I ask every person that's in a death metal band this, whenever we get a death metal band on, I have to ask it because it's one of my favorite questions. And I just think I always really like hearing people's responses to it. So with like death metal, I feel like we're in like a new sort of renaissance with it. Like there's so many bands coming out the woodwork where you're like, this is amazing, and like all of it's almost like top tier. What do you think's been like the main point that sort of speared that?
I don't know. I think there are so many different kinds of death metal now, and I think that they have bled together where you can still identify the influences, but like it's hard to find a band that's just a Swedish death metal sounding band, or just like you look at Gatecreeper, fucking HM2s, all that, but like they don't sound Swedish. They have their own colossal, like almost like arena death metal kind of sound. I think that there's just so many like hybrid, even just within death metal. Like look at how much influence Autopsy has had on these bands these past couple of years. Cannibal Corpse, like the new Sadistic Drive record is like a Cannibal Corpse worship record, and it's fucking awesome. But there are other elements in it too. And so I think just this, incestuous influence thing has kind of, and I think it builds momentum. I think I started to get really into it around like 2018. Of course, this album came out then. Tomb Mold has been killing it. Like just these bands have been really just putting out quality material, which gets people excited about it, which makes bands want to go out and put out better material. And, it's just like it's a positive feedback loop for sure. But yeah, like Tomb Mold, fucking Blood Incantation with Hidden History, like the biggest underground. Yeah, the biggest underground death metal record I've seen since I've been into it. Just blew the fuck up. And then, so stuff like that and where did Blood Incantation come from? I mean, there's a lot of death in there, but like it's hard to pin down exactly like what kind of influences that they had. So I think it's just this blending that it's making people really excited. And there are so many ways to be creative within it. There are so many different flavors. Granted, there's a lot of bad death metal coming out too. It's but I'd rather take a saturated market than a small market. And I think that there's more good shit than bad shit usually, at least that I have been hearing. So I think it's a very exciting time to be into this kind of music, and I think it's only going to continue to get bigger. I mean, on bands like Undeath, like Undeath by far, like probably my favorite. My favorite, like I've seen them twice now within this past year, and they're great guys, and they're sick ass musicians. Lesions blew my dick clean off the first time I heard it. Like it was just the coolest shit I'd ever heard. The middle part of the Mangler on this EP, where it goes between fast and then goes slow and then all that on Death. When I wrote that song, I was just like, yeah, that was like title track of Lesions, exactly what I was thinking. And that part was originally a lot weirder too. I almost made it like too undeathy, so we had to kind of dial it back. But yeah, those guys are fucking crushing it. And I could name a million bands, but yeah, I think you're starting to see these bigger, younger bands come up, and they're getting a lot of support because the scene is exciting right now.
Yeah, like me and Brad have like this working theory where it's also like I feel like Black Dahlia Murder sort of sort of did it first, where they're like hardcore guys that then did death metal because they liked both, and then they've kind of taken all that was great about hardcore and then also put it into death metal, and it's what's come out is like you're getting a lot more people going, hey, maybe we should do that, and it's like, oh wait, it works. So you're getting like this weird sort of mix of like a lot more groove in death metal as well, which is one thing that it always lacked in the 90s, where it's like, yeah, it's great just hearing like blast beats constantly, but like I want to hear something that like kind of makes you want to bop your head to. Yeah. And then these hardcore guys are going, oh yeah, that's a two-step, and they're just doing it like as second nature.
Sanguishugabog. Oh yeah,
exactly.
Oh yeah, we saw them recently. They were amazing.
Yeah, I saw them back in Nashville. They're fucking sick. They were with Undeath.
Love them. Yeah.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. And I think groove has always been important. I just think it took a while for people to fucking realize it, because Cannibal Corpse, they grooved in the beginning. You look at like Bolt Thrower, they grooved. Obituary, clearly, like I think having those memorable groove moments has always been like an important aspect to the genre. But like I feel like people now are like really intentional. I mean, we love groovy stuff. We have to limit ourselves on how much we indulge ourselves in the groove that we write, because we'll make a fucking 5-minute dance song if you'll let us. But, but yeah, I think it's important, and I think it makes memorable songs. You can't overuse it. I think like using like doing like a deathcore breakdown for 10 minutes straight is not going to make anybody happy. But like you throw a little bit of that in there to like season off the blast beats and stuff, and people are going to shit themselves.
Oh yeah. I have like a theory on like the band that sort of like pushed it was kind of Power Trip, because they got big in the hardcore scene, and even though they were thrash, they had that old school sort of sound, and they had a lot more groove than thrash normally would let you have as a genre. So I think a lot of like death metal guys kind of took note, going, well, Power Trip can do it, and they've done really well, and they make really good songs. Let me try it. And then someone did that, and then someone else go, that sounds fucking sick. Did it, and then they've all been like, this is like the top tier of our game, like right now. And then other bands are trying to one up each other, and it's like it's kind of all culminated in like so many things kind of aligning, and then just it's been like, oh, now in like a new renaissance of death metal.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was really late to the Power Trip party. I actually didn't really ever check them out until after Riley had passed. They're fucking awesome. But yeah, no, I can definitely see that. And yeah, it's really cool. It's I had something else to say, but I completely forgot it, so I just won't.
Honestly, I loved Power Trip from like the moment I saw them live. The reason I started doing vocals was because I saw how good Riley was with not having to use ridiculous techniques. Like he was just so good. It made me realize it's not about like how good you are as a vocalist. It's you can literally shout, but as long as you got that amount of passion for it and it shows through, and you give it every little bit that you've got, like you'll be a good vocalist. And like
absolutely,
honestly, the dude had such an impact on me, because it made me go, I actually want to do this. I want to be a vocalist, and that gave me the final push I needed, going fuck it and starting bands. So I owe a lot to Power Trip as a band, but I also owe a lot to Riley as a person as well, because if he hadn't inspired me the first time I saw him, then I don't think I'd be doing vocals. I don't even think I'd have the confidence to be able to do the podcast because it
That's
made me
awesome.
realize I just need a good passion for it.
That's awesome. That's such a that's such a sick story. And I completely agree. Yeah, it's kind of going back to what I was saying before. You don't need to do a bunch of crazy shit, but just that intangible kind of attitude. That's all you really need. Can you make that translate to the audience? And he definitely was stellar at that.
Oh,
No, I
mate, it was
completely agree.
infectious.
Yeah.
It was infectious. Like I see him live and like you just see the room go crazy. But like he'd be going crazy and all that energy. Like I'm getting the dude tattooed on my arm, like because it's just it meant so much. And like I was like, oh, when he passed, it was really hard for me because it was just like this guy literally like everything I'm doing now, he kind of pushed me to do. Like I never even met the guy, and it's such a shame I never even got to talk to him because he genuinely like made everything that I'm doing now like sort of possible in my eyes in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so cool. I think for me that guy's Hetfield, even though different instrument and everything. But for me, it was definitely like as a kid just watching like Metallica live videos and just especially like the 80s into the early 90s, just like that level of fucking energy that he brought. And same thing, Metallica, none of them were individually like the sickest musicians, but like they got together and they just flattened the audience as a unit. Despite, their timing discrepancies and despite, all that, like they just fucking murdered the crowd when they were on. And they've had some vintage moments here and there as well. But yeah, for me, like that Hetfield has been like the guy that I've just idolized. Not idolized everything about him, but like just from a musical perspective, he's definitely the reason that I do what I do.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome,
yeah,
man. So yeah, we are sort of coming to the end point of the interview now, but one way that we always like to leave it is, what advice would you give to a new musician starting out, or maybe even just like audio engineers as well? Like you've got experience in both. Like what advice would you give to both of them if you could, or even to yourself if you could go back in time?
I'm still taking a lot of advice on both of these topics, so I don't know if I'm super qualified. But to new musicians starting out, I think this is the most generic advice ever, but just start doing it. You're never going to get worse if you just keep going at it. Consistency is the biggest thing. I make sure to practice every day, and you got to make a point to do it, even when you don't want to. I think death metal drums is cool. I've always been, big into sports. I played football and everything. Death metal drumming is, I think, the closest to music, the closest instrument and style of music that like has come to like sports as far as like speed and your level of practice. Like I'm doing drills every day to like get faster and everything like that. There's plenty of musical aspects to that as well, but you just have to practice and you have to do it when you don't want to do it. If you really do want to do it in the long run, you have to force yourself on days where you're like, I don't want to practice today. Just go down and start practicing. And once you start, you're gonna be, you're gonna be glad you did, and you're gonna be happy you're doing what you're doing. If it does mean that much to you, I think just do it. And I think a lot of people people think it's harder to learn things when they grow older. There's some brain chemistry shit that goes with that, but I think a big thing is mindset wise, people aren't used to sucking at stuff when they're adults. They're just like, if they're bad at it, they get discouraged and they stop. When you're a kid, you suck at everything. So you'll just keep trying because you're a kid and you suck at everything. But just push past that because it only gets more rewarding. So I would say that just from a mindset approach, as far as technical stuff goes, like audio engineering, I don't know. You just make sure just try to maintain objectivity and try to just always keep what's best for the song in mind. Once again, very generic advice. But with audio engineering specifically, you really only learn by hating your previous work. So I think the more previous work you have behind you to hate, the better you'll be at it. And I think that's the only advice I'll give.
I think that's a really good piece of advice, to be fair, and I could definitely relate to it at the moment. I mean, I'm trying to plan like a short film at the moment, which is why my board back there looks like a serial killer's board. But like I think as adults, I think you're so afraid of failure that you just won't do anything. Like you'll keep pushing it off and say, "Oh no, tomorrow will be fine." But you're never going to get over that sort of fear. So you just need to do it and just make as many mistakes as possible until you get it right. So I'm trying to listen to that advice too, to be fair. But yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, honestly, great EP. So you should be proud of it, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next. And hopefully, we'll see you on the road sometime as well.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is really cool, and I'll definitely be tuning in moving forward to all your guys' future shit. This is really awesome. Thank you for reaching out.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's been great having you on. I've been looking forward to I've been looking forward to it since since you said you were going to come on. Like, I really like the EP. I thought, I obviously saw you from the Noel video, and I was like, I just want to talk to this guy as well. Like, but yeah, it's been really fun. I've really enjoyed doing the episode, and but yeah, it's been great having you on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hit me up if you want to chat about any metal shit just offline. I'd love to bounce opinions and whatever.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll be sending
will.
you some tracks. If I ever find a track that Hudson might like this, I'll send it over.
Please, man. I beg you.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, thank you so much, and best of luck with everything you do now.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.